Hey people, it's Kelly, a print praise Slay, and I'm here with my good friend Morgan, and welcome to another episode of
Cookies.
And Christ. Yay, we did it. We was practicing, y'all. Practice was terrible, but the execution, grand.
Matter. It's just like the playoffs. It's game time. Don't matter what you do in practice as long as you hit them shots when it counts.
What is going on with your background?
My light, it's on a timer. And so
uh,
if I don't be moving, it'd be like, oh, there's nobody in here.
I thought some rave music was about to start. I was like, oh, Morgan over there partying with the Bible. Ooh. So we are in Exodus. We are getting deeper in Exodus. When we left off, we saw that Moses has gotten over. Well, he hadn't gotten over his fear, but he now has his brother Aaron with him, and he is listening to the Lord's um, instruction on how to go about helping free the Hebrews from the Egyptians. So he is confronted. Pharaoh. It went the way it was supposed to go, according to God's will. But now we're going into the plagues that are happening.
You always
Are
say,
you making fun of the way I say the plagues?
yes, because it's not a leg, it's a plague.
The plagues.
Like, what is a P? What's a P leg? That's what it's not like saying P leg. Plague.
Look, I'm from New Orleans. That is the way we say plague. Okay.
If we have any other New Orleans representatives, I would like for y'all to testify that this is true and that Kelly just ain't taking liberties with her accent.
Look at here. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it 10 of them? 10
10
plagues.
plagues. There are 10 plagues.
10 plagues.
Sound like a dad
Um,
plague.
they know my heart. They know what I mean. So Morgan is going to go through them. They are the description and everything that happens with them is from Exodus 7:14 on to 12:30. Um, in our Bible, there is a nice little snippet, summary of all of them together on page 151. If you are not familiar with the Bible that we use, we're using the New Living Translation Chronological Life Application Bible. That was a lot. It is the Life Application Bible, which is a popular published Bible, but it's the chronological version of it, and the translation is New Living.
All right. I'm
I
ready.
believe.
All right.
New
So,
Living, right?
summary, as Kelly said, after linking up with the Israelite leaders, Aaron and Moses met with Pharaoh and basically put in a leave request for all the Israelites. Just for a few days to just pray and sacrifice.
Amen.
Pharaoh, who clearly had no knowledge of who my man God was like, request denied. So then he had mandated that the slaves still meet like their quota. So they was building these bricks. They built it was intense. Um, they had to meet their quota without giving them the materials they needed to succeed, the straw. And when the performance was lackluster, he started beating them. So now when the Israelites saw Aaron and Moses, they kind of lost faith in them. They were mad. It's like, oh, y'all got us into trouble. We don't want nothing to do with you. Moses, a man of the people, went back to God and was like, I had did what you said, and it didn't really work out the way that I thought it would. And now they upset with me, and God tells Moses, chill. It's not over yet. It's not over until I say it's over. This is how it's supposed to go, like Kelly said. He said, by the time this is over, Pharaoh gonna put some respect on my name. So he was like, in fact, I love this. He was like, in fact, he's going to beg for the Israelites to leave.
Mhm.
So pay attention to that. Then he tells Moses and to tell Aaron to perform those acts. If you remember last time, we talked about the specific acts that Moses or that God walked Moses through with like the different acts or miracles to basically prove that he was a man sent by God. So first up was the snake. Boom! Aaron throws down the staff and it turns into a serpent. So the Pharaoh brings in his magicians and his sorcerers, and they pretty much do the same. I don't know what kind of sorcery this was, but they was able to do it. And then since Pharaoh wanted to be a smart butt, God went ahead and hit him with the 10 plagues. You know what I'm saying? So the first one was he turned the river into blood. So killing the fish and making it impossible for the Egyptians to drink from, because that was their main source of water. Then number two, he hit him with the plague of frogs. Now this had Pharaoh a little shook. Um, he begged Moses and Aaron to take him away. Moses was like, okay, bet. Moses prayed. God killed the frogs. But then Pharaoh backpedaled. So then God sent a plague and gnats. This time, oh, I forgot to mention, the other two plagues, the previous two plagues, the magicians and the sorcerers were also able to replicate those acts. So Pharaoh wasn't too, like he's like, whatever, I got people who can do that too. You know what I'm saying? Like eye for an eye, like he still was about it. But when the magicians couldn't do it, and they were like, I don't know about this one. Pharaoh still, his heart, as God likes to say, his heart was hardened. Like he didn't soften up any yet. He was still like, I don't care about. I guess he was like, I don't care about these gnats. I don't know why, because gnats are annoying. If anyone's ever like,
You're like,
bothered. Then the fourth one were the flies. But the thing about these plagues were that they were like subject and only stuck to the Egyptian part of the land. The Israelite part of the land was plague free. That was called Goshen. So it was no flies. It was regular degular over there. So of course Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron, and he was like, okay, he'll let them go and do their sacrifices and their prayer if contingencies, right? People always got to throw out a little loophole. If they did it in Egypt. Moses was like, nah, y'all don't even really believe in our God, remember? So we want to do our thing in peace where we feel safe and just let us go out to the wilderness. So Pharaoh was like, okay, you can go, but not too far away. And Moses was like, all right, listen, I went ahead and I prayed and I got rid of the first ones for you, and you backpedal. So please don't lie to me again. But as soon as God took the flies away, Pharaoh reneged. I don't know why. So the next came, number 5, the next came a deadly plague against the Egyptian livestock. Again, just the Egyptians. Then we had the festering boils, followed by a nasty hailstorm, a plague of locusts. Now we at plague number 8. And by this time, the Egyptians are sick and tired. So they go up and they like, can I have a word with you, Big Pharaoh? Can we not do this? Like, can you just make this all stop? So Pharaoh summoned Moses again, asking for more details. And when Moses told him that's going to be all the Israelites were going, men, women, the old, the young, just everybody, Pharaoh was like, nah. He wasn't with it. He wasn't letting everybody go. So boom, the locust came. Followed by a plague of just complete darkness, complete and utter pitch black darkness for 3 days. So now here Pharaoh is coming back again, ready to haggle. And he was like, all right, the people can go, but leave your livestock. And Moses was like, but that's what we sacrifice. So that don't even make sense. Like we need that part of the ceremonies. So at this point, Pharaoh, because he is just so arrogant and stubborn, and he just mad. So he kicked Moses out and told him never come back. And he was just done with him. He's like, in his mind, he tried to be reasonable and compromising, and Moses wasn't meeting him halfway. So he told Moses and Aaron, don't ever come back. And so boom, 10th plague hit, which is the death of all of Egypt's firstborns. And after the 10th plague, Pharaoh finally let the Israelites go, but it was only after his own son had fallen prey to this last plague. Let me make sure I'm not going too far. Did we go into Passover yet?
yeah, Passover is included
So
section.
yeah, so when we talk during the time of the 10th plague, God gives Moses and Aaron the instruction that you need to make sure that all of the Israelites put their marking on the door. He basically gave them step-by-step instructions of what they were supposed to do. And it was like basically the first Passover. And if they had that marking on the door, the basically the spirit of death would pass them. And of course, because the Egyptians didn't get that direction, that's how all of their firstborn sons died. We can deep dive into what the actual requirements were if you would like, or we can say that for when we talk more to it. But that's the summary of what
Okay.
happened. So the
Well
first
done.
I had was that
Let me go back to
the Pharaoh was the king of toxic work environment.
explain.
Them work conditions, and then he was just very, very unreasonable. It's like I said, they put in a leave request just a few days to go pray, and it was like denied. And then because they had the audacity to put in a request, he
Got
made
me.
them work harder
Mhm.
and then punished them. And then when they was like, "But can we please go, sir?" He was like, "Not everybody, only some." And he's like, "But we need everybody to go. We'll leave your lap." It was just like it was just so toxic. Like who would ever want to? I mean, clearly they weren't really getting paid to begin with, but I couldn't imagine going to a place working and being so underappreciated and overworked and um just driven to subpar standards. Like horrible. It was horrible. In my like reading it, I felt so bad for them.
That reminds me of one of my notes, but it's further along. Hold on, let me just see where it is. It's like right before Passover. So I'll mention it there. But it was basically I'm not understanding like why, like what was the purpose of if his heart being that hard, other than of course God's will to have it that way so he can display his miracles and how he had his hand on the Hebrews the whole time. But it was just like why, like after like people ask for these miracles all the time. Oh God, if you let me do this. God, if this is meant to be, show me a sign. If this is supposed to be, my job, my husband, my whatever you want, people ask for signs, and there are clear signs that we still have. But he ignored all that. Some of them he even acknowledged, and then was like, "I'm gonna take it back. Like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna let all the people go." It's like, nah, like,
But you know what that is? It reminded me. So two things. The first thing when you were saying about how his heart was so hardened, but it was all for God's glory. Because I love when God was like, he's like, man, when I'm done with this man, he's gonna be begging y'all to leave. Don't even worry about it. Like I really, I just enjoy when God be like popping his collar.
you
Whatever.
like the flex.
Yeah, I like when God be like, no, no to God. um, but then the second thing I wanted to say was like, to me, you know how when sometimes when we in these situations and like our back is up against the wall and we feel trapped, and then we say like these super duper heartfelt prayers and oh God, I promise if you get me out of this situation, I ain't never gonna do XYZ again, and he deliver you
Mm-hmm.
good, and the next thing you know,
Well,
next time. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like we do the same thing, maybe not to the same level because ultimately we're just hurting ourselves and not a whole
oh,
country.
I can think of one. Not that this is or isn't my situation. Sometimes you want to put yourself out there, but sometimes you just don't. But let's just say you're a kid, a nice, innocent kid in college, doing you, and you have this oops moment with the one you love. And you're like, God, if I'm not pregnant, I'm going to stop fornicating and I'm going to, be pure. I'm going to be following you and I'm just not going to have sex ever again until I'm married. And then comes out that you're not pregnant and you be like, but I love him, Lord.
That, was that movie where he was like the same ones who be in the church saying hallelujah on Sunday was the same one that was backing it up in
In the clip, I saw that. I don't. I did hear that before.
the movie you're talking about.
But yeah, like I just wanted to make sure I gave like an example because we might sit there and be like, "Oh God, please bless me with this." You get the blessing, and then you kind of don't go to church, or you're still mean to somebody.
I
It's
mean,
like, no, you specifically said, "If you do this, God, I will do this," and then broken promises. So we might sit here and like shake our finger at Pharaoh, but them other fingers are still pointing back at us. So we do have to do like a personal check, like, wow, like this how like you can see a little bit of how you react and how you do things in the situation as well. Um, I have a note, even though I knew this story, like I knew this story, I didn't already watch. What's the name of the cartoon? Prince of Egypt? Is that what this one is? Yeah, Prince of Egypt. I didn't watch the movie 100 times, and then seen all the Bible stories and read the Bible. Like a lot of people know like this story. Um, but I did write a note. Like it said, um, in the first, I'm on like what is this 7:19, and it's talking about how God told Moses to tell Aaron to take the staff, raise it over the waters, and all of the rivers, canals, like the Nile, will turn to blood. And I don't remember this detail outside of the Nile. I don't remember like even the water stored in the wooden bowls and the pots and like all water, like all water everywhere in Egypt will turn to blood, even the water stored in wooden bowls and stone pots. And so my note was like, surely this will be hard for the magicians to duplicate. Like, it's no way. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm underestimating sorcery. Like, I don't know nothing about that right now. So I haven't dove into researching that at all. But then my note later says, "Oh, really?" Because then you go in 22. But the magicians, they also turned water into blood. But I don't know if it was on the same scale. Um,
Right. Was theirs like,
it was like in a bowl or something.
was it a bowl of food coloring and some water? Like
Yeah,
what?
that's I was like, was it in a bowl?
Yeah.
Because the Nile, like in our Bible, it talks about like how vast this river is and its resource to this land. That's a miracle. Like and it wasn't like red water. It was like it was blood. Blood is thick. Blood's not like liquidy water. It's not red water. Because things happen nowadays. Like I forgot what city, I forgot even what country it was in, but they all woke up and everything was orange. Like everything. Like I would personally be like, today is a home day. Like nobody should be nowhere, but they were still going to work and going to school and all of that. And the sky was orange. It was this thick orange cloud, and I think it was something coming from like, I think it's an area that was surrounded by some kind of sand, and the sand had blew that far and created this cloud of orange. Um, but even that is like, wow, like, oh my goodness. But if I was to see the Nile turn to blood, like I just, something in me would have definitely been like, this must be something powerful. Although you don't have a relationship with God, it's like you have to acknowledge something. So it was just like, how hard was this man's heart, and how did he even get to this situation? And all I can think of is that he was placed on this artificial pedestal of power. Like somebody somewhere told you that you were more important and powerful than anyone else in the land. Like he believed he was the morning star. So I don't understand, other than him being boosted. So we got to be careful how uplifting we give, like how much we praise and help other people become this high, because then they start to think beyond themselves. But I was just like, wow. But he believed them. So
So
that was my
with,
note on the blood plague.
I guess my response to that would be, you know how some people just have steadfast beliefs and it's literally nothing that you can do or say or show them that's going to change their beliefs. So if he just literally believed that his God was the only God, or his gods were the only gods, and that this Israelite God was not real, then it didn't matter what they did, because he's like, it's not real. Like some people just refuse to be open to seeing something other than what they already hold to be true. It's kind of like um, people talk about the different religions, about how one believes one thing and then one believes another thing.
I was thinking that.
Get to the point where it's like, yeah, there's nothing you can say that's going to make me be like, yeah, you have your book, but I have my book too. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you have um, your commandments or your rules to live by, and I have mine. And I guess the only difference is that most of the time when there is a difference of opinion, most of the time in religion, we respect, like, okay, well, you do you, I do me. But in Pharaoh's case, it was, I'm gonna do me, you're wrong, I'm gonna prove you're wrong, and I'm gonna punish you for being wrong. That type of hardship, almost like a Hitler.
Yeah, that's what we said earlier. Like he
Yeah,
was. some next level
So
type stuff. So but that was my only, I mean, I highlighted some some things that are in the study notes, but those were my only like my notes as far as under the plague of blood. Then I have, other notes somewhere else. Did you have anything else for that particular plague?
no, you can go through all of them. I just want to say that like I think I could have handled or mentally digested the plague of blood, but by the time we got to number two, the frogs, I'm out.
Okay, so the frogs is where I started to realize. I made a little note. I wrote a little. Well, it's not little. I wrote a lot on my little sticky note, and I was like, "It's." I said it's weird that the magicians were able to duplicate the plagues, some of them, because they weren't able to duplicate all of them.
Mhm.
But they only did so adding to the problem. Like when they, this is when I realized that it was in frogs. Well, in frogs, like it's a book. the the plague about the frogs was like, okay, so they added, so God covered the land with the plague of frogs. The entire land is what it says. That's in 8:2. Um, frogs across your entire land. And then it says they too caused frogs to come up on the land, like in verse 7. And I'm like, since frogs were already there covering it, it's like, how do you then even realize that there are even more frogs? But beyond that point, because if I already have water flooding my house, it depends on if it's covered, like if all the floor is covered, you add in a bucket of water, did I really realize it? I don't know if that really happened. All I know is it's still water here. But either way, they only added to the problem. Like they never were able to like take away. They didn't fix nothing. Like when he said
Said
the
they were
blood in the water was blood, they didn't go and change it back to water. When they said it was frogs, they didn't go and wipe out the frogs. And that's why he had to like come to them and was like, all right, Moses, like uh this is where I was like my Morgan voice kicked in. In 8:8. Read 8:8 and tell me that's not Morgan. I was like, like you set the time. You set the time. Do it tomorrow. Most basically, Pharaoh was like, "Please, I'm begging you." He pleaded with them to pray to God to remove these issues, and so he was like,
yeah,
"When do you want me to do it?" Like, Moses was like, "You set the time." Pharaoh was like, "Do it tomorrow." Moses was like, "All right." Like literally, this is what our Bible says. So, um, the Lord did just what Moses said. Like, Moses went to him and told him about the situation, prayed about it, and God relieved them of that. And then the Pharaoh turned right around and was like,
JK.
"That's not what I said." Like, what? Like, you don't remember all the frogs that was covering this? So then the gnats, then the flies. I mean, I don't think we need to get into like all of the details of them. I mean, we know what gnats are, the little itty bitty things that kind of get in your eyes and your nose and mouth. Like you kind of got to walk like this as you like when me and the kids are walking on a trail and they got gnats, we got to go like this because it's like
A
a
swarm.
swarm of gnat, like it's nasty and they're just everywhere and they're very irritating. And yeah, flies, just think a bigger version of the gnats. So we all know what a fly is. um Livestock attacking, like, their resources and stuff. The boils, I immediately was like, Job. I think Job was the first person I had heard of with the whole boil situation, and from my understanding, that's very painful. However, I did note for hail, that was the first one. Where are my notes? That was the first one that threatened like people's lives. Like you can really get hurt with some hail. Before, all of this was irritating. All of this was a hindrance. Like not something that was like, oh dang, that's messed up. Like no water today, or that's messed up. My cow's gone. I gotta walk around like this. But like hail is like, depending on hail, like it can be, hurtful. So and at this time, houses, it could be hurtful. So I definitely acknowledge that stuff was getting worse and worse. Like how far does this have to go for you to start to believe? um One thing sometimes you read stuff in the Bible and you're like, I think I'm reading it wrong, but I'm gonna say what this says plain out, and you can tell me like, what do you think? I am in Exodus 10:20, and in 10:20 it says, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again, so he refused to let the people go. And it's like a shift for me because I was like, oh, Pharaoh, like he caught like his own will, his own heart, like he's just mad and mean, nasty man. But here you see that it says God hardened Pharaoh's heart, and so you want to be like, oh, that might be what does I'm confused. So I was not reading. I was listening to the Bible recap because I, like I always say, I look at different resources to try to figure out what's going on. Like you can use different resources. You got your concordance. You got all the different channels. This channel, you and your friends, the pastor, all different resources to figure out like what is the message that I'm supposed to receive by reading the Bible. And so what she said in narration, like when she was narrating for this particular chapter, she was like, you don't go and just ignore it and take it out. It's like, oh, I don't understand it. And surely God isn't like the one pushing him to be mean and pushing him to be hard. And her feedback really was that, let's say that is it. What you should do is acknowledge that God is that powerful to use somebody in this type of situation, like use somebody who already was hard and you already know where the situation is going with them, and you allow them to be in that hardness, and God turns their sin or their bad situation and turns it around for his glory. Is how you see this particular situation. Because I was reading it and I was just like, I was like, when did that happen? Because the whole time before that is like, and Pharaoh's heart, showed that his heart was hard. Until this part, it says the Lord did it. So I just thought that was different. I was like, I don't want to do what she said and just gloss over it. Like I don't really understand it. Is it that important to what I feel like I'm supposed to be gathering from this message? So I did highlight it, and I didn't write my note in it, but it is there. It's on my sticky note, but I'm gonna put it inside of the Bible in the margins.
I made
Where?
a similar note about it because I think we touched on it last time, and there is actually a footnote somewhere in the Bible that talks about it. I thought, or um, maybe it was in one of the things that I had read somewhere else. But I know I did some highlights because it did address the fact that it was talking about God making Pharaoh's heart hard. But
With the same notes? Like, did you get the same type of message, or did you get when you were studying, you got something else?
it didn't say anything about what if he did like he was powerful. It was talking about God didn't necessarily like do anything to Pharaoh other than bring out what was already in him, if that makes sense.
Okay.
He didn't like, oh, his heart could be softened, but I'm gonna make it harder. It was just him, I guess, lack of better words, antagonizing or bringing out those things that were already in there for the fulfillment of the prophecy.
Okay. Yeah, knowing that I know this man. I'm also the maker of him. Um, okay. And then you got darkness, um, and then the firstborn, um, in which Passover comes into play. Um, every time I got to this part in the different times, I didn't really contemplate it like that this time, which shows me like, oh, look, growing. But I was like, would you really like this is your house, this is your home. And I know that we don't sacrifice and we don't do the whole hunting of animals. So we don't deal with blood and animal blood on a regular basis like some of these people may have dealt with. So us with the animal blood and everything like that, to some people it freaks them out. Like the whole sacrificing of an animal and all of that is hard for people to get past or accept in Christianity, because some people are taught that that's in a certain type of religious practice and not necessarily in our type of religious practice. Um, but it was literally for me something that I saw that when I first was reading it, not now, but like way like when I first started reading the Bible, was really weird to me. I was like, why would you do that? Like that's like who cleaning that up? Like I'm just like the blood is everywhere. But if that is what you are told to do, like to see that they had that faith and they went and did that and killed the 1 year old male animal and was a lamb, right?
Mhm.
Um, sheep, goat, um, showed a lot of faith. Like that's a lot of faith. Um, and I learned that it's similar to other sacrifices of firstborn that had well almost sacrifices like was it
Abraham.
Jacob and Ishmael, Jacob and I think it was Ishmael when he brought his son up, and then instead of sacrificing his son, there was a ram provided. Um, the sacrifice also reminds you of the sacrifice that Jesus will eventually do for all people and be that sacrificial lamb for those. So I just put just like Jesus in my note next to Exodus 12:3. So I also wanted to I found it interesting to read about the celebration of Passover and the festival of unleavened bread. I've had unleavened bread before. It's not like a wafer. Basically bread that doesn't rise. It's kind of crisp a little bit. Um and at my church in college there was um a Jewish I don't think they call him a pastor.
Rabbi.
Yeah, a rabbi that came and he taught us about that, and that was very interesting to learn about the festival, like what they celebrate and how they do certain things. Because it says that like this is something that's going to be celebrated like generations and generations, and to learn that they still do something like that is like wow. Okay, so any other notes on any of the plagues?
No, I told you after plague two, I was out. I don't know where I was going, but I was out.
What you mean out?
I would have started walking out of Egypt.
Oh, you mean if you were the people who are subjected to what Pharaoh does because they're Egyptians?
Or Israelite, I would have started walking.
Well, they weren't. They were in Gresham.
Gresham. I understand that. But what I'm saying is I just no. I don't want no parts of that. I am somebody, I don't do bugs, I don't do animals, I don't do any of those type of things. I
Well,
didn't need
maybe you wouldn't have been in this.
I
Maybe.
like rain too much.
Well, Gresham is also. Ain't that's the land that Joseph had selected?
Ocean. I thought it was
Goshen.
ocean.
Goshen. Who is Gresham? I think that's my high school principal. No, middle school principal. Principal Gresham. But anyway, Goshen was the land that Joseph selected, I believe, and that was the land that they where the Hebrews were, that was safe from all of the chaos that was happening all up in Egypt. That it's just sad to see people subjected to what somebody else that is ruler over their land. Um, they have to endure the decisions of another person, just like anybody else's country. Like right now there's a lot of people that are in Russia that disagree with how their leaders are doing things, and that's people across the board. So I don't know if people necessarily, well, yeah, actually I did hear that some Russians were leaving. um so yeah, I guess Egyptians could have done that same thing, and they could have avoided after the Nile turned red. But see, I don't know if they was hip to what was going on. Like, did they know that this was a situation
They
that could
heard
have
the
been
story. You know the rumor mill. They knew what was good.
prevented?
They knew what was good.
Well, I mean, I mean, it was pretty clear of what was going on. So after the livestock was the boils, after the boils was a hail, then the locust. I mean, I feel like you went through all of them. The locust was when I've had the point on 1020, and then darkness.
I probably could have did the complete darkness. I don't think that would have bothered me that much.
Me, it would have it when you have darkness. Like, what is that place? Alaska?
Yeah,
Yeah,
6 straight months.
that messes you up. It depends on how long it goes for. 3 days, I think I would have been able to endure 3 days. However, you can assume that in those 3 days, after all of this type of chaos before, that more things popped off. Like people probably were doing stuff that they probably shouldn't have been doing to each other and hurting each other or just losing it. You don't have, I guess you can walk around with fire, but I mean, at this point, are you still getting over the boils? Like, it's just, you know, you don't know how the situation was. But I think that ultimate one, it's just sad that it has to get to that point, and you would hope that if you reflect on yourself, not that you should always place yourself in a Bible story, but if you want to reflect on it and see, like what we were saying about Pharaoh doing something like this, and how at times we ourselves are like, oh God, I believe you, I'm gonna do this, and then you break a promise or a creed that you try to make with him and do something else. um, you never wanted to get to something like, and then he took your house, or and then he took that marriage, or he didn't, um, just because you don't want to go there. But it has definitely, like, you have to accept that it's gonna be God's will regardless. But there are definitely some times where I'm like, I want to learn this lesson. I'm going through this. I'm going to learn this lesson because I don't want to repeat this lesson. That's just something that I have in me that I think about, but that's not necessarily anything that I have read that is a thing. It's just for me. I just feel like if I don't get it, I'm going to keep having to do something or go through something until I learn what's going on. Like if you have friendships and they just keep failing, and unless you do that reflection on yourself and like, oh man, I am a liar. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to stop doing that. Maybe that might be cause of the downside of my relationships. You never wanted to get to the part where it's like, and then God took away all her friends. Like, not that that will happen, of course. It's just, why not, do what you need to do to avoid a bad situation, and take the time to understand what God is trying to tell you in that moment, in that time. If he had reflected, I mean, of course, this is just the will, this is the way it's supposed to be. But for us to take this story and place it on our lives, had we reflected on what God had for us and listened to him and spent time with him, maybe a situation can turn out differently than the way it is now, is all I'm saying. But this was wild. And some people hear this story and they get out of it. So you telling me that God killed a whole bunch of kids? Um,
I would have never thought. I never had that thought. I'm gonna be honest, because doesn't firstborn doesn't necessarily mean that they're children, right?
correct.
Yeah.
It's just that some people just,
See,
you but either way, it's life anyway. But to me, those are his two. Those are like, we all belong to him. And the saying of, giveth and taketh. Job said that, like in different words, of course.
well, you know what I
Back to God.
is. I actually thought about what goes around comes around, because when we rewind, remember when Pharaoh gave the decree that all firstborn Israel Hebrews need to be thrown into the Nile, and now looky. So I got that's what my thought
That
was.
was a good point. I never thought about that. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. All right, so I gotta work on my handwriting. All right. Well, if you don't have any other notes, we early today. Um,
Because the plagues ain't nothing to say. The plagues are the plagues.
the place. Look at you. You say it like Kelly.
I don't say plagues. I say the plagues are the
I
plagues.
heard. It don't matter what person said. It matters what you heard. I heard the plagues.
Well, move, move.
The plagues. So Israel is rescued from Egypt. Let's see. Crossing of the sea. We all know that. Okay.
Whew, I just got a chill.
Okay, so the Red Sea. Maybe I will go to 162. What do you think? B to hold on, is it B to C?
You mean from? Oh, I'm on the wrong page. So you going from one to you doing one and two of B, B one and two.
Yeah.
Okay,
Does that seem right?
I'm sure because part of two is a soliloquy, so I'm sure you can get there. It's a song.
I'm gonna sing it for
Please do not.
you. I cannot sing. The Lord did not bless me that way. Hold on, because there's this pivotal moment where the acoustics is grand
Talking
in
about
the
the.
shower.
You want to know something? So I don't know who it was. It wasn't my grandma, but I think it was like my middle school music teacher. She said that everybody can sing, everybody just can't sing well. And she was like, people who can't like sing, you just have to find what your register is and stick to that. But she said literally every single voice has the ability to sing, to carry a tune, rather, is what she said.
Yeah,
You,
I
you
heard
out here
that
talking
too.
about a falsetto and you need to be down in the sopranos.
I mean, I think everybody can hit the ABCs. Like,
And why they you a teacher? Why y'all change the ABC song?
we don't sing ABCs in high school, dear.
But you teach
I
me.
am not responsible for that. We don't have nothing to do now. Some of us need to go back and maybe practice some elementary ways, but let me update this. But I have heard that everybody can sing. What I try to do is find the artist that is good for my voice. That would be probably Alicia
I'll be right
Keys. Oh, I don't know why I was about to sing and embarrass myself, but I can do Tony. Her sister now, Tamar, she a little bit more different skilled than I. As a matter of fact, when we get off this live,
no.
unbreak my heart all the way. You guys, when you sing Tony, you guys sing from the back of your throat.
You gotta sing from your toes. Bring
Yeah.
it down low.
It it bruise.
You
So
gotta sing from the place that you ain't that you were most broken from. It's a deep place.
I definitely feel like when you're in the emotion of it, because I'm telling you, fake on me if you want, but I can sing some of Whitney's songs, some pieces of Whitney's songs, and Minnie Riperton. Back down memory lane, yes. Okay. Now when she start whistling like on a dog note, I can't. Can't do it. Can't do it. I don't know how the Lord blessed her that way, but yeah, that's not me. I'm regular. All right, people. So that is it. So we will go through Exodus 12:31 through 15:20. It's probably going to see 12 through 15 on some different platforms when I share the next study. And I will be leading next. And so we're getting into what is called in our section Israel is rescued from Egypt. So that sounds exciting. Okay. All this time, people have been waiting for that type of freedom and relief. So, all right. Nothing more.
Nothing less.
Bye,